If you have ever watched your team fall apart under pressure or wished they could bounce back from mistakes faster, this episode is for you. By the way, join the club. We've all been there as a coach. And today I'm talking with Coach Tom, a powerhouse girls lacrosse coach out of Maryland, one of the most competitive lacrosse regions in the country. Tom has coached both the boys and the girls, including a state title on the boys' side, and now one of the most competitive girls programs on the girls' side. And in this episode, what impressed me most was that Tom is not just coaching the X's and the O's. He is building mentally tough, confident athletes using our plug and play elite mental game training system. And in this episode, we got to break down how he introduced mental training to his high school girls team, what happened when he started implementing the Snapback routine to help them bounce back from mistakes faster, and why mental training actually made coaching easier and led to two of their biggest wins in program history. So if you're a coach who wants more poise, more resilience, and less emotional drama and spiral during games, you're going to love this conversation. So let's jump into it with Coach Tom. All right. Welcome, Tom, to the Coach Her Game podcast.
Well, I'm excited to be on, Bre. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am thrilled to have you on to hear about how this whole journey with plug and play, elite mental game with teams, and just your mental training in general has been going with your team. But can you first introduce yourself to our listeners, what sport you coach, how long you've been coaching, all those good details?
Yeah, so I'm Coach Tom Bre. I'm currently coaching women's lacrosse here in Annapolis, Maryland, which I consider to be like the capital of lacrosse, but specifically women's lacrosse in the IAAM, which is probably by far the most competitive women's lacrosse division in the country. So I've been doing this here at St. Mary's Annapolis for 2 years. I previously coached women's lacrosse out in a different part of Maryland at Urbana. And before that, I was very involved in the boys game. I started out as a college coach, boys college coach, actually boys freshman high school coach, then became a college coach up in Boston, spent some time coaching different programs up in New England, moved up to San Diego, coached a little Christian school out there called Santa Fe Christian. We won a Division I championship out there, first one in school history on the boys side.
Wow.
And so moved back to Maryland to be closer to all my college age kids who were going to school here in Maryland to play lacrosse. Myself, I have 6 kids, so they all play lacrosse for pretty high levels. My oldest son played at University of Maryland. My other one played at Towson University. I have daughters that played at UMBC, Hood, Frostburg. One just graduated from there. She won 3 conference championships there, and then I have 2 here at St. Mary's with me. So we spend a lot of time in the lacrosse field, and I've been doing this a really long time, and I really thought your program, when it was introduced to me, I thought it would really help our program and me take another step in the women's game that we found extremely valuable.
Yeah, cool. Well, that is a pretty extensive and amazing coaching background, which also, well, maybe I missed it. Are you at the high school level right now or club level, or do you do both?
I'm at the high school level right now.
Okay.
I coach a freshman club team as well. And I just was coming off coaching a 26, which are juniors, M&D Black team, which was arguably the best club team in the country on the women's side. All those girls are committed. So I moved down to the younger level to kind of bring them through the college recruiting process. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah. Awesome. So clearly, you know the game, you know how to physically train these athletes, get them to the next level, all of that. But something drew you to the plug and play elite mental game for teams, which is our mental training program, because it sounds like any wise coach, you see also the need for not just physical training. So can you walk me through when you first, I guess, what you were hoping to accomplish with your team? What did you want to see? Like when you were like, all right, plug and play, this sounds really cool, but what were you seeing in your team? What were you really wanting to help them get better at?
Well, so when I first came here to St. Mary's, I was told by, parents and pretty much everyone that knew anything about the program that they needed to make some culture improvements. So I knew I could coach these girls, X's and O's. I knew they were going to be skilled and and have energy and have tempo and everything at practice. But so the year before I was introduced to plug and play, we started doing round tables and really just communicating more than I ever have with my boys programs.
Yeah.
And we found it really valuable. So this past year, I really want to expand on that because all the girls said our culture improved dramatically just with communication, right? So
Yeah.
um, I was like, how do we formalize this? I started listening to a lot of podcasts. I think JP is one of the main ones, and about culture and
Mhm.
whether it's men's sports, women's sports, what's it take to be successful. But I did notice the first year we seemed to like pressure situations got to us. So
Mm.
when plug and play came across my desk from, I believe it was our women's volleyball coach,
Oh, yeah.
and she, yeah, so she, and I think she was kind of on the same path. Um, it really became an interest to me that how can we be better by doing the little things off the field and spend time on it without. I mean, obviously, I'm a seasoned coach. I have never spent a lot of time on mental preparedness and visualization and the whole snapback routine. That was all new to me. So I found it fascinating because I like to get better every year, just like I tell the kids. I enjoy when they get better and they enjoy when they get better. And I thought this was for me, a self improvement spot as a coach. And the girls really took to it.
That's awesome. And I was talking with you offline a little bit about like, as coaches, especially ones like, I mean, I haven't coached as long as you have, but we say things like we care about the whole athlete and we coach more than the X's and the O's. But sometimes that does become something that we just say sometimes. And the fact that you were like, no, we're actually going to do it. We're going to like you said, we're going to formalize it in a way and give these kids resources is pretty awesome. So you guys jumped into plug and play. Can you walk me through like how did you start to implement the program? Some coaches understand like, okay, I understand what mental training is, but like how does this actually look with a high school team? How do you do it? So let's talk logistics first and then kind of the changes you started to see.
Yeah. So it's how do you get 40 girls in a room and focused and, after they spent a school day,
Right.
having to be focused and in school, a lot of times, one of the unique things about St. Mary's for us is we have a field house. It's like we have a classroom environment that's right off our field turf. And that isn't always the case. I mean, sometimes, I've been in programs that we're practicing 25 minutes from the school. In this case, we have, a weight room, we have a classroom setting, we have a film room. So I thought that would be a great place to implement the plug and play, and that, we could bring down the TV screens, get the girls, logistically together in a room. So we just kind of coined a term, mental health Mondays.
Oh, nice.
It rhymes. It
Yeah.
sounded good. And we just figured we'd dedicate our Mondays, before practice, leading up to practice for, half hour to your program. And the big thing I loved about plug and play was that, you stressed in it. It's like, this isn't our job. Like our job is to win games. It's to care about the athlete, but like, how do you really do that? And
Right.
I really just think spending even just a half hour a week or, even it was 15 minutes, if we're running late, it was really important for our program. And I think the girls loved it. And you always say it, it's like, it's not a program we're going to do a 6-hour thing. We don't have time for that. We're with these girls. I assume it's the same in your program, like 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week. We only have so much time with them. So,
Yeah.
being able to apply just a half hour a week we thought was powerful.
Yeah, I agree with you. And plug and play is best suited for high school programs to have that similar structure. We're together, for those 12, 13 weeks and we see each other almost every day. And I did it the same way. I actually did it on Friday, so it didn't rhyme. the mental health Fridays didn't quite have the same, ring to it. But same thing. I found that my girls actually look forward to it because it's such a grind in season. And so they were like, ooh, to be able to like actually have some time. And again, 30 minutes, sometimes it was even less for me because I'm like, oh, we're gonna go and do some serving and passing. But like they were like, ooh, I get some time to just like focus in. So yeah, having that carved out is great. So you said the girls, one concern that a, a lot of coaches come to me with are like, how are the girls going to get bought in? Like, and sometimes I think that comes from our insecurities as coaches because it's something new, something outside of our wheelhouse. Most of us are like, we're not sports psychologists. Like what, and we make it easy because literally you press play. But Can you talk about how you got your girls bought in, or like how they first kind of took to the program when you first showed it to them?
Well, it, with us, so many of our girls play multiple sports, right? So,
Mhm.
I've heard you talk about what you're doing in the off season for it, and so it's really hard to get these girls focused off season. So my
Yeah.
decision was to really wait till the season started, get through our
Mhm.
tryout process, get into the season when like we felt we were ready for it,
Yeah.
and I forget. I think we were coming up to some big games, and we had our first session, and I knew we were going to be going through a little bit of a rough patch because we are playing, some teams we've never beat before, right? And like
Mhm.
I'm talking ever, or maybe like 20 years. And so, how do we get through that? So we got into the iron of our schedule. We started to implement this program. So admittedly, we entered it a little bit late, but like
Mhm.
we were probably 5 weeks into our season or 4 weeks into our season, when the real tough conference game started. So I think the
Mhm.
timing was good, but
Yeah.
it seemed like the buy-in was right away. I mean, we talked about it like we're gonna do this, but the first time, like I put your program up on the screen and sat down 37 girls there, and like they were all ears, all eyes. It was quiet. They were focused. Their phones were down, and they just locked in. We started with the snapback, and we
Mhm.
talked a lot about it. And like, granted, I wasn't like an experienced trainer in the snapback thing. I never done it myself, but
Mhm.
just listening to you go through it, I talked to some of my players and specifically my goalies who were like, and I know this from, coaching them in club and everything. They've been doing this their whole life because goalies have had this pressure on them. So we
Right.
talked, we had our goalies like say, hey, this is what I do for my snapback. I mean, this is something I've been doing since fourth grade when I was crying when the ball went in the net, right? So
Yeah.
we use them as like an example, and they were great leaders behind it. But it's just, and especially this particular group of girls, I mean, to be together in a room for a half hour and not have sticks in your hands and, be watching something that is about them and how they get better and about their mental health and how they handle pressure. They were locked in right away.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And that's what that's what I experienced too. And what the experience of most coaches who do plug and play. A lot of this fear is like our own insecurity about it. It's like, no, they actually want to get better. They don't want to feel like they don't know how to get over a mistake. They don't want to feel like they're drowning when the pressure situations come. Like they want to get better. And most athletes actually recognize themselves like it's not the physical training that I'm lacking. It is like the mental side of it, how I talk to myself, all of that. So they're like hungry for some skills to teach them how to navigate those situations. So
Yeah,
um
and with all my time, Bree, on like the boys' side, the
mhm,
boys would never admit that they have like this deficiency, but like I could tell the kids that performed under pressure, and and there was a particular instance, and actually this was one of the things that kind of triggered to me, like, how do I get, I watched like my older son played at Maryland. He won national championship there. And
wow.
he scored an overtime goal in like the semifinals to go to the final four. And I was watching a recap of it, and I was looking at him on the sideline. And, at the time he's 24 years old. So we're not talking about this stuff anymore. And as they were going to overtime period, he's alone and he's like has his head down. And so I asked him, like, what were you doing? He's like, visualizing.
Oh
And
wow.
sure enough, like 20 seconds later, he scores a game-winning goal, and they're celebrating the field. And I'm sitting there thinking, how do I get more players to be like that? Right? Like, I didn't know it at the time. He didn't tell me. I didn't even know he knew what visualizing was. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I learned something, like we all do from our kids, right? And so, how do we start to apply this stuff? And in your program, when you guys talk about the snapback, and then we also tapped into the visualization part of it. I
Mhm.
just thought that was a powerful tool that you provided to us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. And most I mean, that's really awesome about your son. And most coaches are like, well, that'd be great, but I don't know how to teach that. And I don't have time to learn and I don't have time to do all of that. So our goal with plug and play is that it just makes it simple. Like you don't have to learn all of it. You just play it. So um can you talk about the changes that you started to see in your athletes when they started learning things like a snapback routine and some visualization? Like what changes did you start to see in your team?
Yeah. So, a lot of it, I think I mean, there was a lot of giggling going on. So what we did is we went through your program with the snapback routine. And I
Mhm.
asked them, I said, all right, your homework assignment for next Monday is, and it's funny because like in your program, you talk about bringing a notebook, right? And
Uh-huh.
I quickly was shot down. They're just going to make notes on their phones. So like,
Oh,
yeah. So they're like, so they all have their phones out. They're making notes of the snapback, but, and which worked logistically because having
yeah.
notebook, we're going to practice. I thought, it was like, again, learning something from them. So I told them next practice, I want you to bring a notebook with a piece of paper so you can hand in your routine privately to us as a staff. So they
Yeah.
all sat there and they wrote the next mental Monday, they wrote it down. And they were talking about it, they were interacting about it. A couple girls we had demonstrate it. Some of
Oh,
the
cool.
girls I think were a little bit more seasoned in it. I'd say 15-20% of our girls already had a snapback routine.
Oh, wow.
Maybe they didn't know it was called a snapback routine, but
Right.
they spoke up like, make the next play, or they touch their shoes, they
Mhm.
adjust their goggles, whatever, they all had something. And the goalies, like I said, had it for a period of time. But I thought it built some interactions with them, especially like seniors and freshmen, and we had 5 or 6 freshmen on the team, and I think this was totally eye opening to them because like they haven't been in pressure situations, like not like they're getting into in our conference. So they might not be playing during these things, but getting to see our older girls apply these tactics. And so then we moved into what we decided is like some type of reward for the snapback. And if I saw somebody in practice or somebody had a game that they overcame like a bunch of adversity, or maybe they made a bad play earlier and made a big play later, we would award them with like a snapback present, and that present just happened to be a snapback hat, which I have
Mhm.
here. So
So
um,
awesome.
and the girls loved it. We had to pick out the color.
Mhm.
We had pre-ordered the hats. Primarily one of the reasons I was waiting on this program is because I had to wait for the hats to come in too.
Oh
Um,
gosh. Yeah.
so there were a lot of factors there, but and it really, they got a kick out of it, and even and we won those games I was talking about. We happened to win 2 games in the next 2 weeks that were games that we just hadn't won in a really long time as a program.
Wow.
Like culture, season changing, historic type games. One team we hadn't beaten over 20 years. The other one is our rival that we beat at home, and the girls just like when that happens, the girls just start to believe in it, and
Yeah.
um, and like it's just different versions of the snapback, I think, and like you
Mhm.
set this nice like 10 or 15-minute video for us, and it's like we expand it as coaches with our experience and what we do. And I think that's what's great about your program. They're not sitting down watching a video for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, they're just crushing it like quick 15 minutes, talk about it 15 minutes, and then we're off to work.
Yeah. That's so, so awesome. And to see it, whether or not I always say like with my team. So we do obviously a ton of mental training, and sometimes you can't see like, is it working? I'm not sure. But then when it gets to like big games or pressure situations, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I gave them the snapback routine, or that we have some breath work in our back pocket that we can use. And then they start to believe, they're like, oh my gosh, this actually worked. And it's obviously we've got to put in the reps. It can't just be one thing. Mental training does not replace physical training, but I always say it can't hurt us. Like it literally cannot hurt you. It can only help your team and your success.
I totally agree. I mean, it is, I mean, obviously there's the reason why you win big games. It's a combination of everything, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill, sometimes, it's a certain players, coaches, but if you fall apart mentally,
Mhm.
it's a spiral. And
Yeah.
it's tough on the girls when things don't go right. And interestingly enough, in those games, we were down by a pretty substantial like point, like to where it could have spiraled. And earlier in the season, at one point we got down like 3 or 4 goals, and then next thing it was 5 or 6. So
Mhm.
I really believe this at least allowed us to, be able to snap back. And one thing I did find, Bre, too, is I asked the girls at their end of year meetings, I was like, how'd it work? And I said,
Mm,
like when I pulled you off the field after you made a mistake, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Did you use your routine? And some of the girls were like, no, that's where the routine happened. It's like you took
mhm.
one game, one girl goes, you pulled me off 3 times. And every time I snapped back and I went back and I performed better. And it's like, then something bad happened again. I pulled her off again. But like they took, most of them admittingly were saying that they were using it. And that's,
Mhm.
if we can make them better athletes on and off the field, that's our goal, as as a coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought that up because um a lot of times when you do that as a coach, you pull somebody off and then you're spending the rest of the game trying to like get their head back in the game. Or like now you can't put them back in because they're like butthurt that happened. So it like makes your job as a coach easier when they have the skills that they can work through something like that with that instead of spiraling. So you still have them.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I told you in our pre-discussion, we sort of scratched the surface, but um, I really started to believe in it. And we had a situation late in the year where my starting goalie made a bad pass on the first save of the game, right?
Hmm.
And they scored. They went down and scored. I pulled her. I pulled her
Yeah.
on the sideline. She was obviously emotional. She thought she was getting pulled for the whole game. We
Yeah.
went through her snapback routine. And the next 30 seconds, I put her back on the field and she played great. And it was like, that was just example to the whole team that if you believe in this stuff, it works. You have to buy. You talked about buying in earlier, right? If you buy
Yeah.
into it, it will help you and
Mhm.
build their confidence. And I thought we have some great examples. I'm just sharing a few of them, but those are some of the meaningful ones that at least lets you know that like you have a good program and your program's working well, and that our girls really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so your what season is lacrosse in?
So we're in Maryland. We're spring season.
Okay.
Spring season around the country. So we start late February.
Mhm.
We have off-season workouts pretty much most of the off-season, starting up kind of when soccer and field hockey winds down. So we start to see most of the girls like post soccer and field hockey and volleyball. I have some volleyball players, so
Okay.
um, and so we really kick in like February 20th, and we probably have about 3 weeks of preseason before we start playing games.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So next season, and you said, and I want coaches to hear this too, like you didn't get through the whole program. Is that right?
No, we really what I did is I got through like 90% of the program.
Oh, okay.
And I said I'm going to pick two things that
Yeah.
I think we can execute with our conference schedule going
Mhm.
into our season's pretty compact here. I mean, our games
Yeah.
start mid-March and we're done like May 1st. So it's
Yeah.
it's pretty
Nice.
compact.
Yeah.
So I picked two things and it was a snapback and it was a visualization. And
Uh-huh.
those are the really two things we focused on. We spent our mental Mondays talking about, and that's where I feel like we scratched the surface on it. And then next year we'll have some experience in this and tap through more of the programs or the
Okay, cool. Yeah,
lessons.
that's what I want coaches to hear that I think like for the most part, mental training is a skill, just like a physical training skill that needs to be practiced. So we do the same. We do our snapback routine training every single season. We do phase one of the program as well or phase two, where they're talking about their goals and creating their like daily mindset routine and things like that because their goals are going to change. So for coaches, they're like, well, what do you do from year to year? You do the exact same thing. And like for some of it, yes, we do repeat. But what's your plan for next season? Like, are you going to keep doing the mental Monday? It sounds like you are. What are you
Yes.
thinking?
Yeah, I think we're going to just expand. I mean, what's good about it, Bree, is I've only done 2 lessons really, mostly with the team, right? And then we expanded off of those and made it relevant to like our program. Next year we can start right in phase one, and
Yeah.
we can start to really go through a regimen and get through a lot more of the lessons. But um,
Mhm.
to your earlier point, my thing as a male coach that was doing this for the first time ever with 37 high school teenagers. I want to see how it took with them. And now we can expand. And so I had the same question for you. I was like, do you just do the same thing every year? I mean, it's your plug and play,
Yeah.
right? How many new girls do you have on your team? Or do we do this we did it just with our varsity team this year. I
Oh,
think
okay, yeah.
next year we like want to expand it to our JV team too. Especially if I'm telling our recruits, like, this is something we're going to do here. Like
Mhm.
on plenty of podcasts I'm listening to, all the women's programs in college are doing some version of this, whether it's a lot of visualization going on.
Mhm.
Meditation is really a big thing in the girls' college game, especially now they're doing it in the boys' game. Like, this is preparing them for the next level. Almost every
Yeah.
one of our girls goes on to play college lacrosse. Um, we had we've probably had 10 Division One commits. So these girls are serious about their craft, and the only thing holding them back is the difference between being mentally tough and not. And so, if you and me can help them find that tool, I think we're in a really good spot for them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, how you're doing it is right. I have a couple questions left for you though, because
No,
bringing
you're
up
good.
the whole male coaching girl sports, I mean, that's a whole topic in of itself. But to answer your question, yeah, we do. I have 15 new girls that join our program every season, and then we have the outgoing. So there's a good chunk right now in my program, since I've been doing it for 5 years. Our seniors have been doing plug and play every single year. And the thing is, just like you, I only do it during the season. So I only do it during those 12, 13 weeks. And then they go play club, they go play other sports, and they're not doing mental training for the most part. So um, they actually get to kind of get reacquainted with it again. And we do phase one, we do phase two. Again, it's like the same thing, but it changes a little bit because their goals change. And it's just a new take on the season. But then I just plug in like phases. And for those that don't know, there's 5 phases to the program. Phases 3 and 4 and even 5. I look at those and I'm like, what do we need? We've got stuff about leadership. We have stuff about perfectionism, comparison, pre-competition routines, and I'm like, what do we need today? What do we need this week? And then I just plug in those things. So that's how I do it.
I
And I
think
do.
that's great. I mean, I think that's a great way to do it. I mean, like, you can't, as coaches, we have to adapt to what, our team needs, right? And
Mhm.
so, no, I think no, it's good to hear that, because I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah. And we do, I mean, we have a training plan that you can follow, but just if you want to make it easy for yourself, but I like to just map out the season and then just plug in like what we need as we go. So, yeah. Okay. Can you speak just a little bit as we wrap up? I just have a couple questions, but there are a lot, like, it's interesting. Over the past couple of years that we've had plug and play, the majority of people, and this really surprised me, we have a very good amount of male coaches who coach female sports who are investing in the program. And I hear a lot from the male coaches because they're like, I just see the need in it in my girl athletes. I don't know how to coach or teach it. So that's what I
Yeah.
hear from them. But I'm curious from your point of view. Like, this is a very open-ended question, but being a male coach, coaching female athletes, like, how much of this is like, yeah, like, I don't know. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I had a little bit of advantage because I have, I have 4 daughters, right, and a wife, so we got 5 girls in the household.
Yes.
And when my oldest boys went off to college, it's been me and the girls for a whole bunch of years, right? So
Uh-huh.
I've learned a lot, as a dad and a coach. But
Mhm.
and my older daughters have helped coach me to, like, care about mental health, and
Yeah.
so, that was an advantage I had that maybe some don't.
Mhm.
Like, when I told my older daughter, who, my oldest daughter, she talked a lot about how, she does a lot of this stuff on her own before I even saw your program. And when I told her about us implementing, she was ecstatic because
Oh, cool.
she wished she had women's coaches that would do that for her. So if my perception is, as a male coach, and as you said, it's pretty open ended. I think that, we want to make sure we're really careful about, showing that we care about things beyond just like the X's and O's. I think
Yeah.
historically, with men, at least in our sport, men coaches, it was always had a kid in the program or was a dad coach and was
Mhm.
helping out, and it didn't always go well. But it wasn't about caring about all the athletes and the whole team. It was more about, a parent caring about the kid, which, as
Mhm.
someone that's been coaching a long time like that stuff happens. So
Yeah.
I think that, that's probably why, you get so many men coaching women that are enamored by this program because they want
Mhm.
to be better and they want to learn more how, they've been in situations where the girls may break down. And if you're on the men's side, like I said, I never really had, boys break down and cry in games. And
Yeah.
it's a much more emotional, at least in our sport, it's very emotional in the women's game. So we as, male coaches, we want to make sure if we want to win, which we do, we want to figure out the best way to manage those situations. And so,
Mhm.
and we also, I know me personally as a male coach, I feel like they need to know you care about them, right?
Mhm.
And that you care about all of them, all 37 girls. And that is just as important as how much you know about the sport and all the experience I have. And I think if anything, our message got through to the girls is we want you guys to be mentally strong, not just for like this sport and for us to
Mhm.
win games, but like use this in your life. Like I know this isn't the only like, this is the only problem you have in your life. Like use it, whether it's your exterior relationships, whether it's school. I mean, our
Yeah.
girls get so stressed out. They're in a private school environment, high academics. I mean,
Yeah.
they're having nervous breakdowns about schoolwork, and it's like I
Mhm.
think Mental Mondays sort of opened us up to have those conversations. Like, hey, what's going on? And
Yeah.
like they might be like, hey, I have like 4 finals in the next 2 days, and it's like all right, I wish I knew that before, I would have gave you Friday off or like, you guys got to talk to me and now's the time to talk about it. Right. And so I don't know, that probably has something to do with it, Bree, is that if you want to be successful, you can't just coach it exactly like what maybe you were used to coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, that was great. I totally left that open and you nailed it. And I think and it makes sense. It's like you want to coach, like the whole athlete. And sometimes we don't, even as a female coach, you're like, I don't know what to do. She's crying and oh, we got a game going on and, and all this. But I think for some men, it's another layer of like, I just have never experienced that. And so being able to have a resource to give them skills to work through that. But I'm also curious, like, did plug and play and any of the things that you were helping the girls with, like, help you as a coach, just on the coaching side of it?
Yeah, it did because like we got to snap back too sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, um, and I think I've always been pretty good at this. Is not, especially with more experience, is not letting the moment be too big,
Mhm.
and like, but there are times, you get a bad call or like, and you just gotta like kind of snap yourself back into it. And so as a coach, I think if the girls saw me like in a stressful situation, laughing and smiling, like with the bench or like, just kind of like sometimes I just like if I was frustrated, I go hang out down the bench and like talk to my girls who don't play and like,
Mhm.
would make them laugh. And like that was my way of snapping back sometimes. I'd ask their opinion, like, hey, what'd you think of that play? And they're like, why is coach talking to me right now? Like, I'm just, a freshman and, and he's frustrated with some play a senior made. And yeah, I think it did help me as a coach. It helped me,
Mhm.
really just like, if I'm gonna ask them to snap back, it put pressure on me to have the poise to snap back also when things weren't going well. Um,
Mhm.
and there's like as at least I'm gonna say as like someone who's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I worry that like there were times that maybe wasn't intense enough because I was trying to like make sure they didn't see like too much emotion out of me. So we
Mhm.
had 8 1-goal games this year. So we
Oh,
really
wow.
put our poise and pressure and snap back to a test. Um,
Yeah.
that's 8 out of like 16. So
Geez, that's a lot of pressure.
it's pretty. I mean, our league is there's no easy games. It's pretty much like everyone who plays in this league pretty much is going to play Division 1 lacrosse. So it's pretty competitive. But
Yeah.
that is what we sign up for as coaches and what we sign up for as players. And that's why I believe your program is so great because like all these girls are great, and it's just going to come down to like who handles the pressure the best, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and who has the word we use in our program a lot, and the girls like have made it like a funny buzzword is poise. That's, we talk all about poise and play with poise, have poise. And, at some point, I think they were making a joke of it, like, cause we used it so much. They're like, but
Yeah.
every huddle we had, like they'd finish it with like, play with poise or, that would make them smile. And if you can smile when you're like down by 1 with 4 minutes to go, or down by 3 with 7 minutes to go and still win those games or be competitive, it's fun for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. Well, Tom, this has been amazing. I have loved hearing just like even the simple things that the program provided for your girls and how it's made a difference. So thank you for sharing. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to add or anything that you feel like you want to mention?
No, I mean, again, I would, and,
Yeah.
that we continue to try to invest in them.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Tom. Clearly you're doing a lot of things right. So you girls are lucky to have you. But thank you again so much for sharing and coming on the podcast.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Hope you loved that episode as much as I enjoyed chatting with Tom. Now, if you want to learn exactly how Tom did this, you can head to our free coach training at coachbretraining.com. I break down the simple mental game strategies that you can be teaching to your team. And we also talk about plug and play elite mental game for team on that training. Now, if you want to learn just about plug and play, you want to jump in and bring that to your team, you can also find the link for that in the show notes below. All right, I'm Coach Bre. I will see you in the next episode of the Coach Your Game podcast.